The stage lights burned bright as the debate hall filled with restless energy. The crowd knew they were about to witness fireworks. Candace Owens, known for her fiery tone and uncompromising style, walked to her podium with a confident smirk. She scanned the audience, already anticipating applause when she struck her first blow. Across the stage stood Jasmine Crockett, calm, collected, and completely unfazed. While Candace fed on confrontation, Jasmine thrived on precision and composure. The contrast between the two was sharp, one eager to dominate, the other ready to outlast. Candace leaned into her microphone. "You know what the problem is with politicians like Jasmine? They don't speak for real people. They're here to play games, to look polished while the rest of us face reality." Her voice rose, her gestures wild, her tone sharp like arrows aimed at Jasmine. The audience stirred, some clapped, others shifted uncomfortably. The tension built as everyone waited to see how Jasmine would react. Would she fire back with the same heat, or would she rise above? Jasmine took a slow breath, her eyes steady on her opponent. She hadn't said a word yet, but the room was already leaning in. Something about her quiet confidence told everyone that the real show hadn't even started. Candace pressed harder, sensing the crowd's anticipation. She raised her voice, her words sharp and fast. People like Jasmine only care about their careers. They put themselves first while pretending to stand for the community. She's just another polished politician with nothing real to offer. The audience buzzed with gasps and whispers. A few claps came from Candace's supporters, but most people waited, eyes locked on Jasmine. Jasmine finally leaned forward, her calm voice cutting through the noise like a blade of glass through silk. "Candace," she began softly, "you seem very passionate about me. But here's the difference between us, you bring heat, I bring facts." The crowd erupted with laughter and applause. Candace blinked, her smirk faltering for the first time. Jasmine's tone wasn't angry, it was steady, almost too controlled. That made the words sting even more. Jasmine continued, her hand resting lightly on the podium. "You accuse me of being polished. Maybe that's because I prepare. I don't show up to yell, I show up to deliver results. My record speaks louder than your insults." The hall thundered with claps, cheers, and even a few people standing up. Candace's fiery energy seemed to shrink under the weight of Jasmine's calm clapback. For the first time, the crowd realized, they weren't just watching a clash of personalities. They were watching Candace lose control. Candace's jaw tightened. She wasn't used to losing ground so quickly, especially not in front of a live audience. She tried to recover, raising her voice again. "That's exactly what I mean. You hide behind your so-called record and fancy words. People are tired of politicians dodging real issues with rehearsed lines." But Jasmine didn't flinch. She tilted her head slightly, almost amused. "Rehearsed," she repeated calmly. "Candace, this is the difference between us, I don't need to rehearse my truth. When you've actually done the work, the facts stay with you. I live them every day." The crowd roared again, clapping and shouting in agreement. The camera panned to faces in the audience, people leaning forward, eyes wide, hanging on every word Jasmine spoke. Candace waved her hand, trying to talk over the noise. "Oh, please, you're just spinning words to look clever. The people can see through it." Jasmine smiled faintly, then delivered the line that landed like a hammer. "Candace, if the people can see through anything tonight, it's the difference between shouting and leading." The audience exploded, standing to their feet with applause. Some even chanted Jasmine's name. Candace's face flushed with frustration as she gripped her podium tighter, her earlier confidence slipping away under the weight of Jasmine's calm, devastating clapbacks. The debate was only halfway through, but the momentum had already shifted, and everyone knew it. Candace's voice cracked slightly as she tried to shout over the cheers. "You think this is leadership? Standing here with a smug grin, acting like you're above everyone else. That's not leadership, Jasmine, it's arrogance. The crowd quieted, waiting for Jasmine's reply. Everyone could feel the tension now. Candace was swinging wildly, while Jasmine was calculating every move. Jasmine leaned closer to the microphone, her tone steady as stone. Arrogance, she said slowly, is confusing volume for vision. Arrogance is thinking that yelling the loudest makes you the smartest. Leadership is listening, solving problems, and keeping your composure, even when someone is screaming in your face. The room erupted again, louder than before. People stood, clapping, cheering, some even whistling. The contrast between the two women was crystal clear. One was fiery and scattered, the other unshaken and in complete control. Candace shook her head, forcing a laugh. You're just performing for the cameras. Admit it, you're more interested in going viral than actually helping anyone. Jasmine didn't even blink. Her response came quick, sharp, and calm. Candace, if standing up to baseless attacks makes me go viral, then maybe the real problem is that the truth is more powerful than your performance. The crowd went wild. The moderator tried to settle the audience, but it was no use. The hall belonged to Jasmine now. Candace's shoulders stiffened, and for the first time all night, she looked rattled. The moderator cleared his throat, trying to steer the debate back on track. But the energy in the hall had shifted completely. Candace tapped her fingers against the podium, her frustration showing, while Jasmine stood tall, hands relaxed, eyes steady. Candace attempted one last push. You're acting like you're untouchable, Jasmine. But people see through polished politicians. They're tired of smooth talkers who never deliver. Jasmine raised a hand slightly, and the room grew quiet almost instantly. Her voice was calm, almost gentle, yet carried with authority. Candace, you keep talking about what people are tired of. Let me tell you what they're not tired of: affordable healthcare, safer communities, and leaders who can actually keep their composure when challenged. That's not performance, it's responsibility. The audience clapped hard, many rising again to their feet. Cameras flashed, capturing Candace's tight expression against Jasmine's poised smile. Then Jasmine delivered the line that sealed the night. Passion without purpose is just noise. And tonight, Candace, you've been very loud, but you've said nothing. The hall exploded. The sound was deafening: cheers, applause, chants. The moderator even struggled to bring order as Candace stood frozen, lips pressed tight, her earlier fire completely extinguished. Jasmine didn't gloat. She simply folded her hands, looked out at the cheering crowd, and let her calm presence do the rest. Candace had come to attack, but Jasmine had turned every strike into her own victory. The moderator finally managed to bring the debate to its closing statements, but the atmosphere in the hall had already crowned its winner. Candace's closing words were rushed, shaky, and drowned out by murmurs in the crowd. She looked down at her notes more than she looked up, her earlier bravado completely gone. When it was Jasmine's turn, she didn't even glance at her papers. She stood confidently, voice calm but powerful. At the end of the day, leadership isn't about who yells the loudest on stage, it's about who listens the most off stage. It's about service, not spotlight. Her words landed with the weight of finality. The crowd burst into a thunderous ovation, people rising to their feet, many chanting her name again. Candace stepped back, tight-lipped, while Jasmine walked off the stage with poise. Dozens of phones pointed at her, recording every second. Clips would soon spread across social media, replaying the moment she dismantled her opponent with composure and facts. By the time Jasmine reached backstage, hashtags were already trending. Clapback, Owens vs Crockett, and Jasmine won were exploding online. Commentators rushed to declare that what began as an attack had ended as a public humiliation, for Candace, not Jasmine. And Jasmine? She simply smiled, waved to her supporters, and walked away. She didn't need to boast, her calm response had done all the work for her. The clip didn't just go viral, it became a cultural moment. Late-night hosts replayed the exchange with exaggerated reenactments, audiences laughing as they mimicked Candace's shouting followed by Jasmine's calm one-liner. Commentators across networks agreed, Jasmine had mastered the art of dismantling an opponent without breaking a sweat. On TikTok, creators spliced the footage into trending sounds. One popular version had the caption, "When your boss yells, but you've got receipts." Millions of views piled up overnight. Jasmine's poise turned into a memeable lesson in confidence, used by students, professionals, and even comedians. Candace, however, faced the opposite reaction. Every interview she gave afterward seemed defensive. She tried to explain away the moment as media bias, but the more she pushed, the more it looked like damage control. Meanwhile, Jasmine's following skyrocketed. Her campaign donations surged, interviews poured in, and she was praised by colleagues and even opponents for her ability to stay cool under fire. Analysts began calling it a turning point, the moment she crossed from being a rising figure to a nationally recognized leader. The irony was undeniable. Candace had set out to embarrass Jasmine, but in trying so hard to destroy her on stage, she ended up building her up instead. The audience, the cameras, and the world had all seen it, the calm clapback that turned an attack into history. Backstage, Jasmine finally exhaled. The roar of the audience still echoed in the distance as her campaign team swarmed around her, buzzing with excitement. Phones lit up non-stop, messages, notifications, and live updates of just how quickly the moment was spreading. Her campaign manager grinned ear to ear. "Jasmine, you don't understand, this is everywhere. Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, it's blowing up. People are calling it the clapback of the year." Jasmine chuckled softly, shaking her head. "All I did was tell the truth. I wasn't trying to go viral." "That's the point," another aide said. "You didn't chase the moment found you. And the contrast between you and Candace? People can't stop talking about it." One volunteer held up their phone. The clip already had millions of views and thousands of comments praising her composure. Jasmine scrolled briefly, reading lines like, "This is how you win without yelling," and "Candace didn't stand a chance." She looked up from the screen, her smile calm but purposeful. If this gives people a reason to pay attention to real issues, then it's worth it. The goal was never to win a shouting match. The goal was to remind people what leadership looks like. Her team nodded, energized. They knew this wasn't just a win on stage, it was a momentum shift that could carry far beyond one debate. Candace had stormed in with fire, but Jasmine had left with the spotlight, and she hadn't even needed to raise her voice. Weeks after the debate, the ripple effects were undeniable. Jasmine's calm clapback had become more than a viral clip, it was a defining moment in her career. Donations to her campaign soared, endorsements rolled in, and her approval ratings climbed steadily. People who had never paid attention to politics before suddenly knew her name. Talk shows invited her on, not just to discuss the debate but to hear her vision for the future. Each time, Jasmine maintained the same composure she'd shown on stage, steady, articulate, and unbothered by attempts to provoke her. Audiences admired her ability to stay focused, no matter the setting. Meanwhile, Candace's moment lingered like a shadow. Commentators described her performance as emotional, unfocused, and a complete meltdown. Supporters tried to defend her, but the footage spoke for itself. Every time someone rewatched, Jasmine's calmness seemed even sharper compared to Candace's fury. Historians of political media would later point to that night as a textbook example of how composure can outweigh aggression. One analyst summed it up best. Candace attacked with volume. Jasmine answered with poise. And history remembers poise. As months passed, Jasmine's influence only grew. She had proven that true strength didn't come from shouting, but from standing firm and letting calm confidence do the talking. Candace had tried to humiliate her on stage. Instead, she handed Jasmine a victory so powerful that it changed the trajectory of her career forever. The night would always be remembered as the debate where Candace lost control, and Jasmine won the world's respect with one calm clapback. Behind the scenes, the story of that night continued to unfold in ways no one had predicted. Jasmine's team analyzed the numbers and realized the viral moment wasn't just a boost, it was a movement. Younger audiences, especially, were drawn to her style of handling conflict. Students on college campuses started quoting her line, "Passion without purpose is just noise," on posters and social feeds. Clips of her debate response were being played in classrooms as examples of composure under pressure. Leadership coaches even referenced her in seminars, contrasting her calm approach with Candace's fiery meltdown. Meanwhile, Jasmine remained humble. When reporters asked if she had planned the clapback, she laughed lightly. "You can't script authenticity," she said. "When someone comes at you, you have two choices: rise to the noise, or rise above it. I chose to rise above." Candace's frustration only grew. In later interviews, she claimed the audience was biased, the moderators unfair, the coverage slanted. But each time, the viral clip replayed in the background, undercutting her arguments. The harder she pushed her narrative, the more people remembered Jasmine's calm dismantling of her on stage. For Jasmine, the impact went beyond politics. She became a symbol of composure in chaos, a reminder that true power lies not in volume, but in control. And every day the clip circulated, her reputation as a leader only grew stronger. Months later, the debate was still being talked about. What should have been just another political event had transformed into a defining chapter of Jasmine's public life. Her calm clapback wasn't just remembered, it was etched into political culture. Commentators called it the moment she crossed from politician to national leader. Invitations poured in from universities, town halls, and conferences across the country. People wanted to hear from the woman who had shown that strength doesn't come from shouting, but from standing unshaken. Clips of her calm responses were now used in media training programs and even leadership workshops. Her social media following tripled, but what mattered most were the new voices in her corner, people who admitted they hadn't paid attention to her before, but now saw her as a figure of dignity and control. Even some of her critics begrudgingly acknowledged her performance as masterclass composure. Candace, however, never escaped the shadow of that night. Every time she appeared publicly, jokes about the calm clapback resurfaced. Even in unrelated conversations, people referenced Jasmine's viral line about passion and noise. It had become a measuring stick. Every heated outburst from any politician was now compared to Candace's meltdown. For Jasmine, though, it wasn't about humiliating her opponent. As she told one interviewer, "I wasn't trying to win a moment. I was trying to show what leadership looks like." The fact that it resonated means people are hungry for calm in the middle of chaos. And with that, the viral debate moment shifted from trending clip to timeless lesson, one that would follow Jasmine for the rest of her career, shaping how the world saw her, a leader who didn't need to shout to command the stage. Years later, when people looked back on Jasmine Crockett's rise, that one night was always mentioned. The stage lights, the clash of styles, the chaos of Candace's shouting, followed by Jasmine's calm, precise clapback that turned everything upside down. It wasn't just a viral moment anymore, it had become political history. Analysts wrote books about how composure could defeat aggression. Professors played the clip in leadership courses as an example of emotional control under pressure. The phrase, "passion without purpose is just noise," became forever tied to Jasmine's name. Her career soared. The respect she gained that night opened doors that had once seemed out of reach. She went from being a rising figure to a trusted national leader, someone people wanted in the room when challenges grew tense. Her reputation was built not on anger, but on clarity. Candace's outburst, meanwhile, faded into a cautionary tale. Whenever pundits discussed how a single moment could define or derail a career, they pointed to that debate. For Candace, it was the night she lost control. For Jasmine, it was the night she defined herself. And so, what began as an attack meant to tear her down became the very spark that lifted her higher than ever. Jasmine didn't just win the debate, she won the respect of a nation, proving that sometimes the loudest voice isn't the strongest. The night would always be remembered simply as this: Candace attacked, but Jasmine's calm clapback humiliated her, and changed everything.